So good morning again, and thank you for joining me. This is going to be a training session on File Download Manager, which hopefully many of you are familiar with. It is something that you access through your apps and services on the portal, and I will show you how to go ahead and access it. Right now, the screen that I'm sharing with you is the list of categories and subcategories for File Download Manager and the different elements that are found within those categories and subcategories. So let me go ahead and show you how it is that you are going to access File Download Manager through your portal. Let me make sure. This and Janet, you're saying that on the Excel file that was sent, you did not see the elements by subcategories sheet, right? So let me open that up really quick for you so you can see. And let me share my screen with you.
Maybe I'm looking in the wrong page. I see where it says 2 documents, but the only thing that I see downloading is the Excel.
Okay, so this is the SAC training information and resources that was shared with everybody. And down here, there's tabs just like a regular Excel spreadsheet. So
Okay.
under training schedule links and sample docs, when you look up for the week that we are in right now, which is Monday, June 8th through Thursday, June 11th, this is the meeting link you click on, the instructor name, and then for docs to download, it would be this one. So you hover over it and you would just go ahead and click this list of categories and subcategories in FDM.
Mine is a bit different, but maybe it's under quick reference guides. Let me see. No.
Well, no worries. I can go ahead. I do have this saved, so I could go ahead and email it to you at the end of the training. I'll be sharing it with you now. You know, sharing my screen, I will be sharing it with you during the training, so you'll see it. But I can go ahead and send it to you separately.
Thank you so much. I'm not sure why I'm looking at an Excel sheet. That's what I see on mine. A different one. It's a file download.
Okay. So it's not the one that I was sharing with you before?
No.
Okay. Okay. I apologize for that. I will send you the correct one though.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, so does everybody see now my portal just opened up? Does everybody see that? Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. All right, so this is the portal once you log into it. And to go ahead and access File Download Manager, you know, hopefully, you know, if not, I'll show you through here. Apps, services, and sites. When you click that, all of your available apps, services, and sites are going to appear here. They are alphabetical, so you would go ahead and scroll down to F for File Download Manager. It says File Download Manager New. A little trick if you're not familiar with it, if you click the little star, what it does is whenever you log into the portal, it would be, why is it not appearing for me? Usually it appears right at the bottom, so you don't have to go to app services and sites. It'll be down there, so you could just click it. For some reason, oh, maybe it's because of the, yeah, there it is. Okay, I wasn't showing the bar. So whenever you start and you add it as a favorite on your app services and sites, it will always be down here at the bar whenever you log in. So you would just log into your portal, you know you got to go to File Download, it's already there. The reason it wasn't showing up before, I guess I had minimized this. I hit the toolbar. When you click Show Bar, it shows up there, and you would click it and it would take you to File Download Manager. So I'm going to open up File Download Manager. Everybody could see that? I just want to make sure I don't have to do a new share. So the file download shows up, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, So this is how where file download is. This is what it looks like. Let me move this. Okay. So before I go into all of this, um, let me walk you through the different elements of File Download Manager. So here you have the categories and subcategories selection bar. Okay, so these are considered categories. So for example, your categories are demographic, academic, ESC, ELL, program, and assessment. Within those categories, there are subcategories. So when you click the little down arrow, there's going to be, for example, under demographic, there's student basic, guardian info, and so on and so forth. Under academic, there's GP1, GP2, middle year, class courses, and so on. ESC has ESC basics, details, course, medical program. ELL just has ESOL. These are the ones under program. And these are all the ones under assessments. As you see, it goes on for quite a bit under assessments. Okay, so those are subcategories. Within those subcategories, there's something called elements. Okay, I'm not going to click it now because I don't want to go too far into it. I want to go into the reference sheet first and explain to you what the elements are. But just keep in mind, these are the categories and these are the subcategories. Okay, over here to the left is where you would select your school location. Usually if you're only one location number, that's the only location that's going to show up there. For me, right now, if I click on it, all the schools within the district are going to show up. But for you, it should be your only school. Okay, and I'll show you these little tools after we go over the reference sheet. So just so you know, like I said, if you're not very familiar with File Download Manager basically works with DISYS and Aspen, and it gets all the information that is current for each student in your school. And this is information that's current, not just dealing with assessments, which as the school assessment coordinator, you would really need to focus on, but it also deals with anything pertaining to the student. For example, the ESOL level, the ESC exceptionality code, the current courses that the student is taking, anything like that. It even has accommodation codes if the student does have an IEP of 504, the accommodations that would apply for that student. So File Download Manager really is the headquarters for everything pertaining to all of your students, and it's such an important tool to use when it comes to testing, when it comes to planning for testing. Any time of the school year that you use it, it gives you a good idea of the number of students that you have who fall under a certain category, who are going to need accommodations, so on and so forth. Okay, so in this list of categories and subcategories, you do have the elements by subcategories. So remember I told you the different categories, so academic, demographic, program testing, well, those, hold on. Okay, so there's categories, subcategories, and elements. But then, for example, like category, let me just, okay, there was testing. Never mind. I got ahead of myself. Okay, so these are the different categories, the ones that were above. When we click the down arrow, we came up with all these different subcategories. And then within those subcategories, there are elements. So for example, academic, if you need to look up student information regarding academics, GP1 is going to be basically for the grading, the grade that the student received for the first quarter. Okay, so GP1, the elements that would be found under there would be academic grade 1, grade exception code 1, effort 1, and conduct 1. So for example, when it comes to testing, you probably wouldn't use that. But let's say you're very familiar with File Download Manager and your activities director is not, but your activities director is planning some incentives, some school-wide incentive for all students who received a B or above in conduct for the first grading period. You could come into File Download Manager and just very quickly select, student information and include the grade for the first grading period and choose conduct, and boom, all the students' conduct grades are going to come out, and you could go ahead and filter it that way or sort it that way. So this is another thing I want to bring up. Usually the only people in a school who are very, very familiar with using File Download Manager happen to be the school assessment coordinators. In some cases, there are other people, you know, administrators or reading coach who might know it, but usually it's the school assessment coordinators that have a strong grasp on it. So I definitely recommend after this training, you play around with File Download, you see the many ways that it could benefit your school, because this is really a one-stop shop, and it automatically converts it into an Excel spreadsheet, and boom, you're good to go. So I definitely encourage you to not just look at File Download for the great benefits with testing, but just in general, school-wide. It could really help your administrators and your leadership team. So academic, these are the different subcategories and the elements. So you see that those are the elements for that first subcategory, GP1. Same thing goes for the second grading period, the third grading period, and the fourth. GP5, I'm not too familiar with. I don't know if that would be, I don't think it would be final grade because it's even giving a final conduct grade. So you would just have to play around with that and see what comes up for GP5. Okay, academic middle year, you would have mid-year exams, mid-year exam exception code. Academic final year, okay, so this is the final exam exception code, final grade exception code. So this is where your final grade is. This is where that will be found. Also under academic, you would have class courses. So here, when I take you back to File Download and we go through the elements, you're going to see that you do not have to choose every single one of these elements. Why? Because the more elements that you choose, the larger your spreadsheet is going to be. So you want to definitely try to limit it based on what you need. So under class courses, for example, maybe you just want course title. So this is going to tell you if it's, for example, Algebra 1, Algebra 1 Honors, Algebra 1A, Algebra 1B, things like that, okay? You might want course title. You might want course number if you're working with the counselors on that for whatever reason, but you do not have to choose every single element. The more elements you choose, the larger your spreadsheet is going to be. So please keep that in mind. You do want to try to keep it simple in that aspect. Also under academic, you have teachers. So you can do teacher name, teacher number, room number, which is great. They also have employee number. I've never used that. So I don't know if you would need to use that, but that's found under File Download. Great reference. Term and period, okay? And again, this is going to pertain to each student. I want to I want to bring that up. Usually when you're working with File Download, that's who you're getting the information for, is for the students. So just keep that in mind as you're pulling up teachers. It's going to be, you know, tied to the student if you're putting the student's information there. Under demographics, student basic. So under student basic, you have student ID, FLE ID, school, grade, all the pertinent demographic student basic informations are here. There's lunch code, cohort year, middle name and middle initial, okay? Let me see, okay. So notice under student basic, first name and last name come out as two separate elements. That means for each element, that's going to be a separate column. So for under student basic is where you find first name and last name. If I scroll down here, there's another one called student details. Under student details, it's going to have the student's full name. So you would also choose, if you choose the student's full name there, that's going to be just one column. So keep that in mind. Okay, you have guardian info as another subcategory, home address, mailing address, race, ethnicity, okay, student details. For student details, this one is very good for if you're ever working with your ESOL coordinator and they need the dues date. I mean, they have other ways of finding it because they could use elevation. But if you happen to be working with an ESOL coordinator, they have the dues date. That's important for them. There's also the date that they entered, Dade County Public Schools, you know, different things, your student language. So that's all found under student details. I found personally as a school assessment coordinator that the subcategory I would use the most under demographic was student basic. That was pretty much my go-to. Okay. Student school. Okay, so under demographic student school, this one is also very, very useful because you can choose the homeroom teacher. So homeroom teacher would come out there. That's pretty much the only one I would use there. But you do have different options there, obviously. Okay. Under the category of ELL, you have ESOL. There's only one subcategory under ELL, ESOL. So under that one, you do have different, all the different elements that would fall under ESOL. This one is very, very important. This school year, we were supposed to have provided accommodations to ESOL students who had just exited the program within the last 2 years. Okay, obviously we left school before spring testing when this was supposed to start, so we didn't get to do that. But under File Download Manager, when you get the information for the student, you here under this subcategory, you would click the ESOL level. You would also click ESOL status is an important one, and ESOL exit date. Okay, and then from there, at the beginning of every testing season, you should receive some correspondence from the assessment office letting you know what's the ESOL exit date. For example, all students after this date, that those students would have the accommodations provided to them. So that's that subcategory and category is very important to use. And of course, you obviously need to know your ESOL students to make sure that you're providing them all the required accommodations. Okay. Under the ESE category, there are quite a few subcategories under there. So for ESE, we have ESE Basic. So for example, ESE Exceptionality, that's going to give you your exceptionality code per student who falls under, like who has something with attached to their name in the system. Okay, so keep in mind with file download, if you're getting, for example, all of your, let's just say 3rd grade students, you're looking at information for all of your 3rd grade students or whatever the case may be. ESE exceptionality is only going to appear for those students who have an exceptionality code. If the student does not have an exceptionality code, it will be blank and there will be nothing under there. So just keep that in mind. That it's not going, you're not going to click ESE exceptionality and then your worksheet that comes out is only going to be those ESE students who have an exceptionality code tied to them. No, all of your students will appear, but this element will only have something under its column if it applies to that student. Okay, so ESE exceptionality is a very important one to use for school assessment coordinators. Also section 504, this is going to tell you if the student has a section 504 on file. If they do, under section 504, it is going to say Y for yes, the letter Y for yes. In some cases, when the student has an ESE exceptionality code and they, like for example, K, under section 504, it might have an N, which means they do not have a section 504 plan with them. Okay. Accommodation codes. This is a very good one also to go ahead and include in your spreadsheets for file download. Accommodation codes are going to tell you if the student is paper-based, if they are large print, if they are text-to-speech, anything like that. There's also another code under there, the number 9. So for number 9, you do have to dig a little bit deeper and possibly work with your ESE specialist to find out exactly what is listed on that student's 504 or IEP, because 9 covers a plethora of different accommodations. For example, extended time, verbal encouragement, preferred seating, so on and so forth. So when you download this, if you get a 9 for any of your students, that's what that means. Okay. ESE details, I never used this as a school assessment coordinator, but these are all the different things that are under there. under that that subcategory. ESE course, this would be, whichever ESE course they have on file with them. Also, if they have any special therapies, speech, language, occupational, whatever the case may be, and how long they have their hours for that. ESE medical, again, I never used this one, but it is available there. So if your ESE specialist is not familiar with this, you can sit down with them and say, hey, I just want to let you know, did this training and these are available there. Once I go through with how to download the spreadsheet and do all of that, you could definitely sit down with them and let them know, hey, here's another reference, like a resource that you could use. Okay? So that's all under ESE. Then we have program. So program might fit a little bit more, again, with your counselors, with your CAP advisors, anybody like that, because for under program, there is attendance. So you have the different excused absences, outdoor suspensions, all of that. There's also discipline, in-year suspension, out-year suspension. There's also graduation subcategory. So here you would have your community service hours. Here under graduation, you would use it as a school assessment coordinator, especially if you are a high school assessment coordinator, because here it is going to go ahead and give you the graduation requirement flags for their math, which would be the Algebra 1 EOC that they need for graduation. Also their wait, hold on, no, that's over here. FSA A1 EOC flag. That's where it would come up with if they've met the requirement, for the graduation, for the EOC graduation. Okay, you also have FSA reading ELA flag. So that's going to let you know if the student has met that requirement for graduation. So under program graduation, you would use those, would be ones that you would mainly use. Okay. There's also GPA, again, not something as a school assessment coordinator that I use. Also under program, there is student program. So there's scholar, merit, pre-K program, code, magnet type, so on and so forth. Okay. Under testing, testing is probably the largest category here with the most subcategories. And under testing, you have all the different specific assessments that are available. So access, alternate, ACT, NR, which NR is not reportable. Access for ELL, okay, EOC Algebra 1, Algebra 2, which there no longer is done, EOC Biology, Civics, Geometry, History, which history is going to be, if I'm not mistaken, sorry for scrolling so fast, history is going to be for the U.S. history. Okay, I'm sorry, give me one quick second. Okay, I apologize for that. Okay, so the different ones you would have here, you have, where were we? Okay, so the EOC Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Biology, Geometry, History, that would be the U.S. history. FSAA, EOC, Algebra 1, I'm sorry, A1, A2, Biology, CV, all the different ones for FSAA, okay? ELA, Math. So keep in mind that the FSA Math is going to be for anything up to grade 8. After that, then you have the Algebra 1, Geometry, all of that. You also have PSAT, SAT 10, which is going to be for your K through 2nd students. SAT NR, which means non-reportable. ACT, which is college reportable. FCAT, PERT, SAT, okay, that'll be college reportable. Okay, so let me walk you through really quick the different elements that are here, for example, under FSA. Okay, so for example, under FSA ELA, the different elements that are available here, FSA ELA year is going to be the year that they took it, and it's going to give you the latest information for them. It's not going to give you every single FSA score previously. It's going to give you the latest one for them. So FSA ELA year, the month that they took it, the grade level that they were in, the score that they received, which for score, I think it actually might not show something. For level it does, and for scale score it does. So for the level, that's going to be anything from level 1 to 5. It's going to tell you for FSA ELA PF, pass or fail. So the pass or fail is only going to appear when the student is taking the FSA for example, graduation, like the 10th grade ELA. There it will say pass or fail. If you're looking at information for a 9th grade student who took the FSA ELA, it's not going to say pass or fail. You're just going to have to base it off of the level. And you know that anything below a 3 is non-proficient, has to be 3 or above to be considered proficient. The scale score for the student, and then there it's going to go through the different domains that are tested in the FSA ELA. It's going to tell you the possible score, and it's going to tell you the score that they earned, okay, for all the different domains. So possible score and earned score. And that's gonna pretty much be the case as you see for all of the different elements within the categories. Even for example, FSAA, it'll tell you the possible score, the earned score, okay? Things with, for example, PSAT, it's not going to tell you that, but you see the different scores that it gives you. So that'll be really important as a school assessment coordinator. If you have a student who is trying to meet Algebra 1 concordance based on their PSAT score, you can go ahead and download from File Download Manager and pull up their highest math score for the PSAT, okay? And you'll find out if the student has met concordance there. Or you can do PSAT math and PSAT highest math. I believe that would be if this student has taken the PSAT multiple times. Okay. So the biggest thing, just because this list of categories and subcategories is so vast and gives so much information, I cannot stress it enough or recommend it enough that you should grab this and play around with it on File Download, okay? But now we're gonna go on to File Download, and I'm going to walk you through how to get information and download it and just some key points to keep in mind with that. Okay, so let me go ahead and go into my File Download. Hopefully it has not logged me out. Okay, so I showed you these different categories really quick before we choose anything, okay? For making a selection here, if you click that, I mean, that's just going to be to make selections here. So selection is not going to be anything that you really need to know. Favorites is an awesome one that I'm going to show you once I choose, once we choose a spreadsheet here, once we choose data that we want to pull out. But if I click it right now, when you select favorites, it's going to take you to the favorite files that you have. So these would be favorites that you have saved. I do not have any saved right now. These would be favorites that you shared, that somebody shared with you, okay? And these are prepared favorites, and we'll go through that towards the end, okay? So favorites is actually a very, very great resource to use with File Download. Whenever you want to go back to File Download, instead of having to click the little arrow here, you would just click File Download Manager, and it is going to take you back here, okay? So, let me start by selecting the location, okay? If for whatever reason you ever want to search something, like let's say you want to go ahead and look up FSA ELA scores or whatever, you can start typing here, but when clicking search, you see that same reference sheet that I was using actually pops up here, and you can search through it here if you want to, or you can just start typing FSA, ELA, and it starts coming up where you could find that. Now you know, okay, I'm gonna have to go to the testing category, which here it says testing, but here it says assessments. So just keep that in mind, it's the same word. I'm gonna have to go under the assessments category. I'm gonna go to FSA ELA, and that's where I'm gonna find what I need. Okay, so this is great. If you don't have the cheat sheet handy, or you just want to, look it up really quick, you just type it up there and it's going to tell you where you could find that. Same thing with ESOL, ESOL level. I'm going to find it under ELL, ESOL. Okay, so the search button is very, very helpful. Okay, so let's say we want to go ahead and pull out information here for, I want to pull out information because I want to know the ESOL levels of all of the students, in my school, and I want to know their lunch code, and I want to know their latest FSA score. Okay, so I would go here to demographic, and I'm going to start choosing something here. So whenever you want to choose multiple things, multiple subcategories within a category, you would click one, for example, student basic. And let's say I also want to click student details. If I click it just on its own, it's going to unclick student basic. So I'm going to click student basic, and when I want to click here student details, I click control. Click. And if I know that there's more things in here that I want to click, I need to make sure I'm holding control. And then when you unclick it, like if you click it again, it'll unclick and unselect. But the minute you let go of that control and you click something, it's going to unclick everything else, unselect everything else. So on student basic, let's do student school. Okay. That is going to stay selected. Now I'm going to come over here to academic. Is there anything I need here in academic? I don't. So I could, leave that open, or I could close it, whichever, doesn't matter. ESC, I'm going to want to know also if any of these ESOL students happen to be ESC as well. So I do not need to continue holding control because I already have a new category open. I'm just going to click ESC basic. ELL, only thing to choose is ESOL. Okay. For program, do I need anything here? Right now I don't. And then assessment, I want to know their last FSA ELA score. So I'm going to click that. Okay. Once you have all of your things selected based on how you're going to want your spreadsheet to go ahead and show up, you are going to click load right over here to the right. Okay. So now when you click load, it is going to pop up every category and subcategory that you selected. It is also going to select all of the elements that are available under that subcategory. Okay, so in this particular case, I do not need all of these selected. I want to remove some of them. I only need certain information from here. So instead of, let's say, for example, here, all I needed was student ID, fleet ID, and first and last name. Let's just say, instead of having to unclick everything, okay, you just click that and it's going to unclick, like unselect everything. If you click it again, it is going to select everything. So because I know I only want certain information here, I'm going to unselect everything and just pick what I want. So I want student ID, I want fleet ID, I want the grade level, first name, last name, and I wanted to know lunch code. I'm going to click that. Okay. Same thing over here. So you're going to continue doing that, and you're going to pick and choose what you want. If you want everything to show up there, by all means, keep it selected. But again, keep in mind, the more elements that you have chosen here, the larger your spreadsheet is going to be. Okay. So I do not want everything. I only want homeroom teacher. ESOL, I'm going to unselect. I just want to know ESOL level, ESOL status, and the exit date, because I'm going to want to know this for testing. Okay, ESC basic, I do not need everything here. I just want ESC exceptionality. I want section 504, and I want those accommodation codes. Okay. Okay, and under FSA ELA, I'm going to deselect all. I just want to know the year they took it, the grade they were in, and I just want to know their level. I don't want to go into scale score. I don't want to go into pass or fail or anything. I just want the level. Okay. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so once I have everything selected here that I want to show up on my spreadsheet, okay, you're gonna go ahead and scroll down. Now, please, for the training purposes, I'm going to do what you shouldn't do to hopefully show you not to make this mistake. So there's a next and a new button down here. So if you were to click new instead of next, it's going to get rid of everything that you just did. Please do not click new. Do not click new. I don't know why it's down there. I wish that button wasn't there, but it's there. Do not click new because everything that you just spent time selecting is going to erase and get rid of. Okay, so again, we're going to start here. I'm going to select my location. Okay, I wanted to select student basic. I'm going to hit control and select student details. I'm going to come over to academic. Didn't want anything there. ESC. I'm going to do ESC basic. ESOL program. I don't need anything there. And here, I wanted FSA ELA. Whoops. There we go. Click load. Okay, here we go again. Okay, so before I start deselecting anything, I made my selections here. And I realized after I made the selections, oh shoot, I chose student details and I meant to choose student school because student school is where I'm going to find the homeroom teacher. Instead of clicking down here new or changing anything, I can add another demographic, like I can add another subcategory here so that those elements appear. Keep in mind when you do it that you want to click control so it selects it as well. Okay, because if you do not click control and you just go back and say, oh, I need student school instead, and you click it, it's going to unclick basic and details. So I click student school, I click load. What it's going to do is it is going to add it to the selections that I have here. Okay, so and let's say, I go ahead and add it and then I'm like, oh, I forgot, to delete the student details. I didn't need that. I could just unclick student details. If no elements are selected under that subcategory, this will not appear in my spreadsheet. So you can accidentally add in a subcategory so that you're selecting different elements from it. But if you don't need it and you unclick it, just leave it there. Don't do anything else with it. If it's unclicked, it is not going to appear in your spreadsheet. Okay? So student basic, let me go through this again. Student ID, fleet, grade, first name, last name. Let me do lunch code. Student school, I want to know the homeroom teacher. ESOL, I wanted level, status, exit date. ESC basic, I want exceptionality, section 504, accommodation code. And here I just want to know the grade level they took it. I want to know the level that they got. That's it. Okay. So now I am ready to move forward to hopefully get my spreadsheet here. Okay. So I am going to click next. Okay. And if you're ever in doubt, hover. Hover to discover is the trick here. If you were to click here under new, it's make a new selection. Make a new selection. Get rid of all of this and make a new selection. You do not want that. Hover for next and it says apply order and sort to selected elements. So these elements that have been selected at the top are going to now be ready here. Okay. So some people click next and then they see the download button and they're like, oh, I'm good to go. Me personally, although I'm very familiar with Excel and how to sort and filter and move columns around, I highly appreciate this option here before I download. So here, what happens is you can put the order that you want the elements to appear in. And you can also sort here. You don't have to wait until your spreadsheet opens, okay? So for example, the same order that it is up here, that all these different elements are up here, is the same order that it's going to be down here. And I don't want that. I want to have them, I want to have it like all of my columns in this order. I want it to be first be grade level, then I want it to be homeroom teacher, then student name, and so on and so forth. So what I would do is I would click the little down arrow for element order, okay? And I want grade level to be my first column. So I would grab this. Now, there's arrows over here. The not darkened arrow is going to just move the selected item one line above. So I would click it and it would just move it one above. But I wanted to go all the way to the top. So instead of, having to continue clicking, if I want to move it all the way to the top, I would click move selected items to the top. Now that's easy to do with grade because it was right there by the top. But let's say I want to move homeroom all the way to the top. Instead of continuously clicking, I click the darkened up arrow and it moves it all the way to the top. Okay, but remember, I want it to first be grade level, then homeroom. So I'm just going to move homeroom down. So it's going to be grade level, homeroom. Now let's say I want to move the ESOL level, status, and exit date. Those three, I want to move them all together. I want to start moving them up in the element order. Instead of having to do each one individually, you click it and you click control and you select the ones that you want. You can move them up together. Okay, and it's going to continue moving it until you want it to be moved. I'm going to actually move it after the student's name, okay, or after the lunch code. Okay, another thing, I like to have my last name column first before my first name. I'm going to move that up. I'm going to move student ID and flea ID. I'm going to select both of them because I want them to be after the last name and first name. So I selected both of them and I'm going to move them down. Okay. And then the rest of it, you know what, I'm good with that. So this is really good, the element order, because like I said, you could be super quick and just download it and then worry about doing that in Excel, but this is so easy because you're not dealing with all the data there. You don't have to worry about missing one student when you're moving things or selecting the wrong thing and moving it how you don't want to move it. This is a great way to do it from the beginning. Okay, so that's your element order. Now, let's say for sorting by. Okay, let's say because right here, just because you download this spreadsheet is not going to be downloaded where grade level is in order, where it's going to be, oh, K, first, second. No, this is going to mix up your kids and it probably won't even be alphabetized. Like it'll probably be a hot mess. Okay, so I want to sort my my spreadsheet already. Okay, so I want to include the selected elements. You're going to include selected elements to sort by. So I wanted to sort by grade. Okay. So I wanted to sort by grade. Then I wanted to sort by, let's just do, I'm going to do homeroom, last name, and first name. I'm going to do all three of those. So first I want it to be sorted by grade, then by homeroom, then by last name, then by first name. Okay. Again, here you can move things up if you want. Maybe you want homeroom first, okay, or so on and so forth, and that's what you're going to do. Okay, so you have the same buttons here for sort by if you want to continue moving that. Save to favorites. So the really good thing here that I want to bring up with favorites, if you are the school assessment coordinator this year, and then you're the school assessment coordinator next year, and you have done this spreadsheet, right? And you've organized this and it's a great reference for whatever you might need it for. You save it to your favorites. It will be available next year as well for you to access. And when you access it next year, the information that is there is going to be updated with however it's been updated in DICES and in Aspen, okay? So for right now, you're opening this up and your third graders are under, third grade. Next year, those third graders are going to be under fourth grade. And any changes that have been made are also going to apply there. So if their ESOL level went up, it's going to be there. Okay, lunch code changes, it's going to be there. So once you download a spreadsheet that you're very comfortable with and file download and that you feel is very beneficial to you and your needs, and you save it to your favorites, that's as good as gold. So favorites is an awesome one to do. So you would click it and you want to save to favorites and you go ahead and name it. So I'm gonna name this ESOL lunch code, whatever. I'm just naming it whatever I want. Okay, once I click that, it's going to go ahead and save that to my favorites. Okay, now, if you save it before you've downloaded it, no worries. It's just obviously you weren't able to download it there. So you would go to your favorites, you would find it there, and then that's where you could download it. Okay, I did want to show you how to download it from the original thing, so I'll show you now because I didn't want to pull up. Well, I know what I can do. So I'm going to download. Oh, select my location. Again, this only applies to me because I do have all of these school locations under my name. Okay, for you, you won't have to select a location if you only have one school location under your name. I'm going to go ahead and download. Okay. Let me get rid of some student information. Oops, no. Seconds. All right, good. Let me do share.
Jen, you need to share your screen.
Yeah, I'm doing that. I was just blocking out the student details. Okay, so here is, can everybody see the new one? Yes, good. Okay, so here is the spreadsheet that has been downloaded based on what I chose. Okay, so you have it by grade level, homeroom, I have last name, first name, student ID, flea ID, lunch code, and you see that the sort, the order and the sort that I put it in is how it appears here. So here we have it sorted by grade level. So first you have your kinder, then first, second, and so on and so forth. Okay. You have your homeroom teachers. Again, these are the pertinent student information here. Lunch codes. I'm not familiar, or I don't understand why some of these lunch codes actually have numbers in them. It's usually just F, R, D. I'm assuming these are supposed to be blank, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure why that's there. I think we would have to bring that up to the people who run file download to see why that is. But usually it's F for free, re for reduced, F for free, R for reduced, and D for denied. So they applied, but they didn't get approved for anything. And then the blank one, no, the blank one, the D is when I guess they have not given an application at all. The blank one is when they applied but they didn't get accepted for it. Okay, different ESOL levels, ESOL status, ESOL exit. So this, when it goes ahead and opens, it does open as a CSV, which is a comma delimited file. You want to make sure that you save as an Excel workbook. Okay, you want to save it as an Excel workbook. Any changes you make to it, especially any changes to the features, width, size, all of that, the order that you put it in, everything is going to save how you change it. So just keep that in mind. Under file download, it is going to download as a CSV. You want to change it to an Excel workbook. Okay, and then you would save that wherever you have, wherever you would like. I'm just going to save this on my desktop. See? Okay, so you have the accommodation codes, everything here. Remember I was telling you about the section 504. If the student has something under ESE exceptionality, it'll come out N, you know. And then from here, you can create your filters or sort or do whatever you want to do there. Okay, let me show you now the benefits of going back to the file download. Okay, going back here. So I prepared this ESOL lunch codes spreadsheet, right? I want to go ahead and share it with people at my school. When I click the share ESOL lunch codes file, what it is going to do is it is going to share the favorite file with everybody that is in your location. Okay, so your principal has access to file download. Anybody that your principal has designated to have access to file download manager is going to get that file that has been shared with them. Okay, so it does give you this warning here. Oh, do you want to proceed? Usually the only people who have file download manager are people that the principal had to select. So I would think it's usually okay, unless, whatever you're downloading is for, I don't know which reasons, and you only want specific people to have it. You wouldn't share it through file download, because then everybody who has access to file download in your school would see it. In that case, I would just recommend you go ahead and download the spreadsheet, save it, and then share it. Okay, so yes, I want to go ahead and share it. So now when, for example, my principal comes on to file download, if I tell my principal, oh, go ahead and go to your favorites, it's under, I shared it with you, it would be under share favorites, and they would find it here. Okay, I think I have a chat up here. Let me see. Where can we access the meanings of the accommodation code? Oh, okay, Dharma, thank you. Oh, you sent that to me though privately. So we're going to be posting the list on the same site that the training, office hours, and resources are. Janet, we haven't shared that just yet, but it will be available there.
Okay, so you guys are going to share that with us after the trainings are over?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Okay. So that's pretty much file download in a nutshell. It's definitely a very, very useful resource for school assessment coordinators and just for other people within your school to use. There are some prepared favorites files, and you could play around with these. I'm going to show you what the test chairs one looks like. Me personally, when I was a school assessment coordinator, I didn't really use the test chairs one. I just felt like it had too much information at the time for what I needed, and I felt like I did more work in getting rid of certain things from that spreadsheet, as opposed to just going through the different categories and subcategories and selecting the specific elements that I needed. But if well, I don't want to download it now, because like I said, it's going to be a huge file, and then I'd have to make sure I block out, all the student information. But when you go onto your file download and you come to your favorites, scroll down, and it'll be under prepared favorites, and you would click the little download test chairs file button, and it'll go ahead and pop up, and you'll see, what's available there. I did feel like it has a lot of information, and for me, it was easier to work with, and to make sure I got only the things I needed by selecting the different elements and subcategories. Okay. But I think that's pretty much it. Oh, I didn't realize I hadn't started my video again. Sorry. Are there any questions? No? Dharma, did I touch on everything? I'm going to use your help now that you're here.
Yeah, no, I think you did. I think you gave them the good general knowledge with all the detail that they need. So I think you're good to go.
All right, awesome. And definitely with file download, it's a lot of playing around with it. Play with it, go through it, make the mistake of clicking new and having it all go away and then be mad at yourself, because it always happens when you need the information like quickly. It always happens. And yeah, I mean, I can't say, I really can't say anything bad about file download. I love file download, and it's, that's what we've been using for all of these trainings. That's where we got the information from. Like when we say, oh, this is the file from file download, well, this is where you get it from as it pertains to your school. So if you think of any questions after this training or anything, just feel free to send me an email. Janet, I'm going to be sending you the list of categories and subcategories. Okay? Oh, you're welcome. Let me make sure I stop.